Came in for the first time in the room, he was wearing this red shirt. I tell the story a lot. Like, he was wearing it under his Iowa wrestling shirt, this red shirt, and I was like, why are you wearing that? And the first thing he told me was, I'm breaking it.
Austin DeSanto was born on May 6, 1999, in Reading, Pennsylvania. Growing up in a state known for producing some of the toughest wrestlers in the country, DeSanto was immersed in a wrestling culture that demanded excellence. But unlike many of his future opponents, he wasn't a highly touted prodigy from a young age. He wasn't the strongest, the fastest, or the most technically gifted. But he had something far more valuable: an unmatched work ethic and a relentless drive to win. As a kid, DeSanto wasn't handed success. He had to earn it. He started wrestling at a young age, competing in local tournaments across Pennsylvania, and early on, DeSanto didn't always come out on top. But those early losses only fueled his hunger to improve. He became obsessed with training, spending hours refining his technique and pushing himself harder than anyone else in the room. DeSanto knew that if he wanted to be great, he had to outwork everyone around him. And that's exactly what he did. From a young age, he developed a unique wrestling style: fast-paced, aggressive, and unrelenting. While others relied on talent, he relied on pure effort. By the time he reached high school, DeSanto wasn't just another competitor, he was a wrestler on a mission. He had transformed himself from an undersized kid with something to prove into a relentless force on the mat. But his biggest test was yet to come. High school would be the proving ground where he would shock the wrestling world and cement his name in history. In the span of 4 years, DeSanto would go from an underdog to a state champion, and along the way, he would ignite one of the most shocking rivalries in high school wrestling history. His opponent, a name that had become synonymous with dominance: Spencer Lee. To understand just how monumental Austin DeSanto's high school career was, you have to understand the legend of Spencer Lee. By the time Lee was a senior at Franklin Regional High School, he was already regarded as one of the greatest high school wrestlers of all time. A 3-time Pennsylvania state champion, a 3-time age group world champion, and a wrestler who hadn't lost a match in years. His dominance wasn't just impressive, it was expected. No one could touch him. No one even came close. Meanwhile, DeSanto had been making a name for himself at Exeter Township High School. He had built a reputation as one of the hardest working wrestlers in the state, but when it came to comparisons with Spencer Lee, he wasn't even in the conversation. To most, he was just another wrestler who would eventually fall victim to Lee's greatness, but DeSanto didn't see it that way. He didn't care about rankings, reputations, or past results. All he cared about was proving that no one, no matter how dominant, was unbeatable. The two were on a collision course heading into the 2017 state championships at 126 pounds. Spencer Lee was looking to complete his perfect high school career with his 4th straight state title. DeSanto, on the other hand, was after his first. Everyone expected a routine win for Lee. After all, he had already beaten DeSanto before. Their first meeting came at the 2016 state tournament, where Lee dominated with a 15-0 technical fall. To most people, this second match was just a formality, but to DeSanto, it was his shot at redemption. From the opening whistle, DeSanto did something no one had dared to do against Spencer Lee. He attacked relentlessly. He pushed the pace, forced scrambles, and refused to let Lee dictate the match. The first period was a battle, with DeSanto managing to stay within striking distance. With a few seconds left in the match, DeSanto seized his moment. Down by a point, he spun behind and secured a takedown. The crowd erupted. It was something no one had ever seen before. Austin DeSanto had pulled off one of the greatest upsets in high school wrestling history, defeating Spencer Lee to win the state championship. The victory sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. Spencer Lee, the unbeatable legend, had lost. And it wasn't just anyone who had beaten him, it was Austin DeSanto, the underdog, the grinder, the kid no one had given a chance. But to DeSanto, this wasn't just about winning a title. It was about proving that with enough heart, enough effort, and enough belief, anything was possible. Despite his state title and national attention, DeSanto wasn't heavily recruited by top Division I programs. He didn't have an elite freestyle background, and some questioned whether his aggressive, high-paced style would translate to the NCAA level. But DeSanto didn't care about rankings or outside opinions. He committed to Drexel University, a smaller Division I program in Philadelphia, determined to prove himself all over again. As a true freshman at Drexel, DeSanto immediately made an impact at 133 pounds. He stormed through the season, showing that his relentless pace could overwhelm even experienced college opponents. His aggressive, high-scoring style made him one of the most exciting young wrestlers in the country. But as the season progressed, the competition got tougher, and DeSanto's weaknesses were exposed. While he dominated lesser opponents, he struggled against the very best. DeSanto's freshman season culminated at the 2018 NCAA Championships. After battling through the tournament, he found himself in the infamous Blood Round, the match that determines whether a wrestler becomes an All-American or goes home empty-handed. Facing Rutgers, Scott Del Vecchio, DeSanto fought hard, but ultimately fell short. Just like that, his season was over. For many wrestlers, making it to the Blood Round as a freshman would be an accomplishment. But for DeSanto, it wasn't enough. He wanted more. He knew that if he wanted to compete with the best, he needed to train with the best. And in the summer of 2018, he made a bold decision. He transferred to the University of Iowa, home of one of the most dominant wrestling programs in the country. At Iowa, DeSanto found himself in the perfect environment. Under the legendary coaching of Tom Brands, he trained alongside NCAA champions and future Olympians. The Hawkeye Wrestling Room thrived on intensity, aggression, and relentless effort, values that defined DeSanto's style. From the moment he arrived in Iowa City, he was all in. DeSanto quickly became a fan favorite and a polarizing figure. His aggressive style, high motor, and raw emotion on the mat made him one of the most exciting wrestlers to watch, but they also led to controversy. His fiery personality sometimes boiled over, leading to heated exchanges with opponents, post-match confrontations, and moments that divided fans and critics alike. Despite the controversy, DeSanto delivered results. Year after year, he was a force at 133 pounds, taking down top-ranked opponents and earning multiple All-American honors. His battles with elite wrestlers like Roman Bravo Young and Satan Fix became must-watch matchups. Though he never captured an NCAA title, he played a crucial role in Iowa's 2021 national championship run, helping the Hawkeyes secure their first team title in over a decade. Throughout his college career, DeSanto proved that wrestling isn't just about talent, it's about heart. He showed that with relentless effort and an unbreakable mindset, you can close the gap against even the most skilled opponents. And while he never had another rematch with Spencer Lee, their careers remained forever linked. Once high school rivals, they became teammates and training partners, pushing each other to be better every single day. By the time his college career ended, DeSanto had cemented his legacy as one of the most exciting and intense competitors in NCAA history. He wasn't a national champion, but he was a fighter, a warrior, a wrestler who left everything on the mat every time he competed. But as one chapter closed, another began. With college wrestling behind him, the question remained: what was next for Austin DeSanto? For many wrestlers, the end of an NCAA career marks the end of their competitive journey. But DeSanto wasn't done. The fire that had fueled him since he first stepped on a wrestling mat was still burning, and he wasn't ready to walk away from the sport he loved. The next step? The senior level, where the best wrestlers in the world compete for national titles, world medals, and Olympic dreams. DeSanto made his senior level debut in freestyle wrestling, a style different from the folk style rules of college wrestling. While some wrestlers struggle with the transition, DeSanto's high pace and relentless offense made him a dangerous competitor right away. He trained with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, surrounded by world-class wrestlers and Olympic champions, all pushing him to new levels. In his first few competitions, DeSanto made it clear that he wasn't just here to compete, he was here to win. His fast-paced, non-stop attacks overwhelmed opponents, much like they had in college, but at this level, mistakes were punished quickly. Unlike college, where control and riding time played a major role, freestyle wrestling was all about exposure and quick points. DeSanto had to adjust his style to avoid giving up counters while still maintaining his relentless offense. As he continued his freestyle career, DeSanto faced some of the top names in the U.S. wrestling scene. He stepped onto the mat against experienced veterans and rising stars, testing himself against wrestlers with international credentials. While he had his share of wins, He also faced setbacks, losses that reminded him that, at this level, even the smallest mistake could cost him a match. But if there was one thing the world knew about Austin DeSanto, it was that he never backed down from a challenge. Outside of competition, DeSanto remained a polarizing figure. Fans who had followed his career since high school continued to support him, drawn to his passion and relentless style. Others questioned whether he could refine his technique enough to compete with the world's best. But DeSanto had never cared about outside opinions. He had spent his entire career proving doubters wrong, and he wasn't about to stop now. As he set his sights on national and international competition, the next challenge loomed ahead: the U.S. Olympic trials. Making an Olympic team is one of the hardest accomplishments in wrestling, requiring years of dedication and perseverance. But if there was one thing DeSanto had proven time and time again, it was that he thrives when the odds are against him. His journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. For years, DeSanto was known for his fire, his aggression, and his sometimes unpredictable intensity. His passion for wrestling was undeniable, but his raw emotion often led to moments that divided fans. Whether it was post-match confrontations, heated exchanges on the mat, or simply his refusal to back down from anyone, DeSanto's antics became as much a part of his reputation as his relentless wrestling style. But over time, something changed. The same fire that once burned wildly became more controlled, more focused. The same intensity that fueled his battles was now being used to uplift the next generation of wrestlers. Today, DeSanto isn't just competing, he's giving back. He now helps out at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club's Kids Club, working with young athletes and passing down the lessons he's learned throughout his career. The same wrestler who once fought against the odds now helps guide the next generation, teaching them not just how to wrestle, but how to train, how to push themselves, and how to approach the sport with discipline and heart. Through this, DeSanto has shown a new side of himself, one that proves growth is possible, both on and off the mat. His once fiery emotions have given way to leadership, his raw intensity now channeled into helping others improve. He's still the same competitor, still the same relentless force, but now he's using his passion to inspire rather than divide. Austin DeSanto's story is one of grit, redemption, and unwavering belief in himself. He may not have been the most naturally gifted, the most recruited, or the most technically refined, but he was always the hardest worker in the room. And that's why his legacy will endure. Because wrestling isn't just about winning titles. It's about effort, resilience, and the will to keep going no matter what. From a kid with something to prove to a man shaping the future of the sport, Austin DeSanto's journey is far from over. And if history has taught us anything, it's that you should never count him out.